Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews. Today we're taking a look at the 1700mm PA-18 Super Cub from FMS. Before I get into the content, I need to let you know this video is sponsored by FMS, who sent this 1700mm Super Cub out for review. I'll have a link in the description if you'd like to pick one up for yourself. It will be an affiliate link, so if you use my affiliate link to make a purchase, the channel will get a little bit of a kickback, but don't worry, that's paid by FMS and it doesn't cost you anything extra. Thanks to FMS for sending this unit out for review. Let's get into it. If you follow the channel, you know I already took a look at the 1300mm PA-18 Super Cub, and I thought it was just a spectacularly good sport airplane. I've enjoyed flying that plane quite a bit, and when I got a chance to take a look at the 1700mm, which is really the same model, just a little bit bigger, I jumped on it. So thanks to FMS for sending this one out. I'm very excited to fly this plane. Before I take it out of the box, let's get into the specs. The wingspan is 1700 millimeters or 66.9 inches for those of you living in the US. The overall length is 1136 millimeters or 44.7 inches. The flying weight is 2100 grams. It uses a 3541 750 kV motor spun by a 45 amp ESC. It requires 6 17-gram servos and a 6-channel radio. The center of gravity is between 80 and 85 millimeters from the leading edge. The prop is a 12x7.5 two-blade, and the recommended battery, I was a little surprised about this, is a 4-cell 2200 to 2600 35C. You have full house controls, aileron, elevator, rudder, flaps, no retracts on this one. You do have LED navigation lights on the wingtips. The approximate flying duration is 4 to 5 minutes, and the experience level on this plane is intermediate. They say the assembly time is around 40 minutes. That sounds about right for these types of planes. By the time you get the radio done and get everything set up, about 40 minutes seems reasonable. The wing load is 50 grams per dm squared, and the wing area is 42 dm squared. I like to give you guys a look at the model inside the box before I take it out of the packing material. You might notice up front the landing gear came loose. That's my fault. I took it out to check it out inside. So it was taped down and snug from the factory. FMS always does a really nice job using styrofoam to separate the EPO foam components to keep them from getting damaged during shipping, and this model is no exception. Let's take it out of the box and see what's inside. First up is the landing gear. Look at that big old wheel. These are hard foam wheels though. They're not pneumatic, so these are not air filled. The good news there is that you don't have to worry about keeping them filled with air. The bad news is you don't get the same kind of spring in the tire. So if that matters to you, just be aware these are not air-filled tires. That's kind of a dense foam. The landing gear, really simple to install on the plane. A couple of keyed slots that'll slide up into the fuselage, and then you'll attach a couple of springs right here to help actuate the landing gear. But yeah, the landing gear on the 1300mm were just fine. I expect these will be more of the same. One little hardware bag. There's not a whole lot going on here. You got a couple of springs for the landing gear, a couple of screws to hold the surfaces on, a couple of connecting rods, it looks like a prop nut, and the spinner. That's about it in terms of hardware, and these hardware bags are really good indicators on how much assembly time you have. The smaller the parts bag, the quicker the assembly. There are a couple of wing spars. This one looks like it's for the horizontal stabilizer, and then this one for the main wing. And here is the 12x7.5 inch prop. One thing I noticed, it's square cut on the tips. That's interesting. I'm interested in what's going on there. If you know why there might be a square cut tip on the prop, leave a comment below and tell me what you think about it. Next up is the manual. This is a typical FMS paper manual. You've got English, German, French, and Chinese. And in terms of the manual, it's just what you need. You get information about how to set up your transmitter, your receiver channels, your rates. There's probably some information in here on your center of gravity and maybe a little information about how to set up this ESC and troubleshooting. There's also a spare parts list in case you have some damage and need to buy spares. Those are your parts down there at the bottom. And then this page gives you a little information about your CG and how to set up your clevises and control rods. Next up are the wings, and you can see the wings are already pre-assembled. Like everything is done on the wing, except you obviously have to connect the wing support to the fuselage. That's right here, but all the other parts are there. So this just extends out, and you can see we've got flaps, ailerons, the control rods are already installed. I'm a little surprised they didn't put any effort covering these servo wires with tape. FMS normally does a pretty good job with those types of decorations, hiding the wiring. I'm a little surprised they didn't do that on this one. You can see on the wing root, there is a square plastic piece with a single quick connect, and that is a proprietary piece, but that is going to connect your ailerons, flaps, and your lights out there on the wingtip. That's what that's for. And then you can see the 2 screw holes there to screw the wing into the fuselage. And then, of course, out here on the wingtip, we've got our navigation light right there. That's the blister. And we'll take a look just to check quality at the leading edge of the wing to see how that is. And it looks very straight to me. And as you can tell, the black leading edge, the paint on there looks fine. I don't see any issues. And check out on the leading edge, they even have these molded in vortex generators. Isn't that cool? Right there on the leading edge, kind of neat. Here's a look at the trailing edge of the wing, and notice on the top they have this little plate for the servo horn, and that's screwed in. I like that style where they clamp down on the control surface with the top plate and the horn. That's my favorite way of doing this. That looks really good. Also note they use EPO on the hinges here, no mechanical hinge. So if it bothers you, one thing you can do is cut that free and then use a different hinge method like a mechanical hinge. And I know some people like to use Blenderm there as well. Blenderm works fine. With that said, the wing looks just fine. I don't see any defects. We're good to go. Next up is the starboard wing. I won't go through the same level of detail. We'll just give it a quick quality check. There's a look at the leading edge. That is styrofoam. That's not a chip in the paint. So there we go. Nice straight leading edge. Trailing edge looks happy. I don't see any issues there. Everything looks very straight. Next up is the bottom of the wing, and I do want to point out when I took it out of the box and I moved the wing strut, I noticed the bottom support came free from the wing. That's a worthwhile checkpoint before you go fly. All of these plastic pieces, just give them a little tug and make sure they're still glued on. And if they're not, put a little contact cement in there and just glue it yourself. It just takes a few minutes, and that's a small miss, but we'll take care of that pretty easy. That's the whole nature of a pre-flight check. And then, of course, we've got these little plastic plates holding our servo wires in. I don't see any other issues on the bottom of the wing. Everything looks good, other than that one little connector, which we'll just glue that back in. No problem. Here's the port side horizontal stabilizer, nice and flat, EPO hinge. This one uses a plastic torque tube connector, and there is the receptacle for that spar I showed earlier, and a couple of brass inserts for the screws. So the horizontal stabilizer just screws right into the airframe. No issues there. And then here's a look at the other half of the stabilizer. This is the starboard side, and that looks nice and straight. Here's a look at the trailing edge. That looks very straight to me, no concerns there. And again, EPO hinges, just make sure you flex those a little bit before you fly. And also notice the ball link already installed. So once you put that in, you'll connect the control rod, put it on the servo, and you'll be good to go. And the torque tube is keyed. It's got a plastic key, so that'll slide into the other half, and that's what gets you connected on both halves of the elevator. Finally, we've got the fuselage. Here's a look at the starboard side. We'll just run that by the camera for you so you can get a nice look at it. Isn't that a cool graphic on there? The blackbird, the gray mountains, the white color scheme, all looks really good. This is a really nice airplane in the sky. Check out the plastic mounts for the horizontal stabilizer. The servo's already installed. Looks like they took the last hole off to make sure we have clearance. The tail wheel is already installed. The vertical stabilizer is molded in, and the rudder is already installed. So that just makes the assembly a little bit easier. Very nice. Here's a look at the port side, same graphic on this side. Here's the connector. Remember I pointed that out on the wing? A little bit of a proprietary connector there to connect your aileron flaps and your lighting. And then here is the plastic receptacle with the brass inserts for the wing mounts, so very easy to install. You just slide the wing in, screw them down, and you're ready to go. And here's a look at the rest of the fuselage. I don't see anything worth note there. Everything looks like it's in good working order. To gain access to the cockpit, there is a little plastic latch right here. We just push that aft and we lift the windscreen right off. Notice it's got that tongue which inserts right into the front of the cowl right here, and that locks it down for a nice affirmative lock while you're flying. I do like that style where the tongue sits underneath that latch and locks onto the airframe. That, to me, is the correct way to do things. Inside the cockpit, there's Velcro down here on the deck to keep that battery attached to the deck, and a couple of Velcro loops to go over the top of the battery. All your wires are right here, and this airplane uses, yay, an XT60. I don't have to cut this one off and convert it from those blue ones. So all your wires are right here, and take note, I don't know if the camera's gonna pick it up, but we actually have a Reflex V2 right. Hopefully the camera can see that, but if not, there's a Reflex V2 right there. So with all the wiring done and right there in the cockpit, this is a very, very easy assembly. It should not take too long at all. That wraps up my first look at the FMS 1700mm PA-18 Super Cub. I think everything looks like it's in good order, and like I said, I flew the 1300mm version of this plane and it was really, really nice. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I expect this plane is going to be more of the same. Keep an eye on the channel. I will get this put together and we'll get the maiden video done just as soon as possible and up on the channel. Thanks to FMS for sending this unit out for review. I'll remind you I've got an affiliate link in the description if you'd like to pick one up for yourself. If you like this kind of content, make sure you smash that thumbs up button, subscribe and hit the bell so you know when new videos hit the channel. YouTube should recommend another video for you right now. That's all I've got for today. Take it easy and go fly something.